Welcome to Expedition Networking, a special segment of the Networking RX podcast. I'm Frank Agan, founder and president of AmSpirit Business Connections, and your host for this program. For those of you who are familiar, on the Networking RX podcast, we share information and have conversations with experts, such as authors, researchers, and social scientists. And all of these programs are aimed at helping you learn how to become better at building professional relationships and understanding why they work. In this Expedition Networking segment, however, we're going to bring on successful entrepreneurs and unique professionals and explore their networking adventure and learn how they used relationships to create lasting success. All right, if you have been around in the last 5 or 6 years, well, 15 years, I should say at this point, you'll know that Marvel Studios, which is owned by Disney, has had this fantastic series of movies, and they're all intertwined and interrelated. And if you haven't followed it and you plan on following, I'm telling you right now, this is a spoiler alert. But when we got to 2018, there was a movie, and it was the third installment of the Avengers, and they were fighting a supervillain, Thanos. And Thanos was trying to collect all these stones and put them into this glove. Mm-hmm. And he snapped, and half the universe disappeared. Half the Avengers disappeared, half the world disappeared. And, and of course, then there was a follow-up movie, Avengers Endgame. First one was Avengers Infinity War, and then Avengers Endgame, where they righted everything. For the most part, they righted everything. But just the whole notion, that whole year waiting between these movies, I'm just thinking to myself, wow, that would be really weird. I mean, what would happen if, okay, half the universe, but just by luck, it was everybody I knew disappeared? What would that do? All my relationships. And I'm just starting fresh. And I know there's fantasy and there are villains in the world, but today I have on the program, I have somebody who actually went through this. Now, it wasn't a supervillain that snapped and took all her people. She's laughing. She knew I was going to do that. But I have Sabrina Victoria on today, and Sabrina went from being a struggling single mom. We're going to talk about this story here and how she lost everything. But then she, single mom, and she then ended up into a relationship, 13-year relationship with a narcissistic, abusive man. Damn, I hate men. But she overcame that, and she's built this incredible network of inspired fans worldwide, and she's helping people, really endless amounts of people, break through and discover their own untapped talents and immense potential. She's the creator and CEO of what's known as Human Better 365, which is a human transformation company, and she's creator of Sober Society, her nation's communities, and host of Her Talk Show, which I believe that's the name, Her Talk Show, right? Pretty simple. Yes. But she's dedicated to giving people the tools they need to rise and human better. And she's a speaker, she's an entrepreneur, she's an author, she's a mother, she's an awesome person. Welcome.
Thank you.
Well, let's just jump right in. I'm sure people are like, okay, what happened? What happened? So
I'm going to say that your version would have been way cooler than my version.
I know. Well, for those who are listening, Sabrina and I have spoke before, and when she told me on her story, originally she said, I was never afraid of knocking on doors, of making sales, because I grew up a Jehovah's Witness, and that's what we did. Yeah. And if you live anywhere near a Jehovah's Witness church, I don't know if that's the proper term, they stop by and they knock on your door. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I don't know how this conversation is going to go, because I don't know anybody who's a Jehovah's Witness, and I guess I still don't. But anyhow, tell the story.
Yeah. I first of all, was it a glove or were they rings? I thought they were rings.
No, it was a big gold glove. Yeah.
Wow. And then they went in.
Yeah.
Throwback to that one. Yeah. So I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness. My parents actually wound up becoming Jehovah's Witnesses because of what you're joking about, door knocking. Somebody came and knocked on their door. They were both Catholic, and somebody came and knocked on their door, Jehovah's Witnesses. And by the time I was 5, my parents had fully converted. They were baptized as Jehovah's Witnesses, and life changes. I didn't know back then. I was so little, I don't even remember, but Jehovah's Witnesses don't celebrate any of the holidays. They don't celebrate birthdays, Christmas, Valentine's Day. They don't believe in blood transfusions. They don't salute the flag. I mean, there's a whole array of differences between normal society and Jehovah's Witnesses. Long story short, at the age of 20, I wound up getting pregnant with no husband. Emphasis on the no husband part. And because of that, my entire community, everyone I had ever known, including my immediate family, shunned you. Basically, they shun you, or Jehovah's Witnesses call it disfellowship. So within 72 hours of me announcing that I was keeping my baby, I lost all communication with everybody I had ever known. Absolutely devastating during such a vulnerable point in someone's life.
I have a million questions. Have you ever reconciled with your parents?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're still Jehovah's Witnesses, and I completely respect their faith. And it's not the relationship that you wish, because it's very shallow. I'm living in sin. I live with my fiance. So, yes, we do have a relationship, but it isn't,
It's not what you dreamed of or would hope for.
Yes. But then again, it's like you look around and who has that? Like, how many people actually have that? Like the best relationship with their parents.
Yeah.
So I think movies has a lot to do with that and what you think and wish or whatever. But yeah, we've come to Bay. Okay.
So here you are. You got nothing. You got the shirt on your back, clothes on your back, maybe personal belongings, and I just can't put my head around that.
Yeah.
You and I were talking about Lisa Luckett when we first met, because she was on your podcast, and Lisa's been on this podcast. For our listeners, Lisa lost her husband in the Twin Towers in the 9/11. And that's certainly devastating, but there was just a tremendous outpouring of support for all the people who were affected by that. There was no congressional hearing or anything with respect to you. Hey, we got to come up with money for this poor girl.
No.
You're not going to the church. You're not Catholic at this point, so they don't care. Nobody cares.
No, nobody. And to make things, to dig it just a little bit deeper, and the reason the story is that much more traumatic looking back is because after I went through the whole pregnancy, gave birth, never even talked to my parents on the day that my son was born. We called, we told them that he was born. It was their first grandchild, and listed name, weight, just so you know, and absolutely no response. So that was devastating. But then on top of that, myself, my son's father, my son were attending meetings or church, and in order to get back. So when you're disfellowshipped, you still have to go to meetings in order to get what's called reinstated, but no one looks at you. You're basically like a ghost. So no one looks at you, no one acknowledges you, nobody smiles at you, nothing. So you go in, you sit in the very back row, you sit, you pay attention, you pray, and then you leave. And I had done that for about the first 3 months of my son being alive. Well, all during the pregnancy, and then when my son was about 3 months, the elders, the people who run that congregation, brought me into a back room and they said, "Listen, Sabrina, you're doing a great job. We're so proud of you for showing up for all the things. However, the congregation is slightly confused as to what you're doing with your son's father. Are you marrying him? Are you not? What's going on? Because in the eyes of the Lord, you need to make a decision. You can't just play house. So you have to either marry this man or break up with this man. You can't just be doing this thing." So I wasn't in love with my son's father. However, I don't even know what I'm doing and I have nobody. So he was like my lifeline. But I was so desperate to get back in with the congregation, back in with my family, my friends, everything that I had ever known, that I decided to sacrifice and cut ties with my son's father. Also, not thinking and being completely naive to hello, money. Mm-hmm. So I wound up breaking up with him, and he obviously got incredibly upset and frustrated. And instead of just being like, yeah, sure, no problem, let me just move right next door, which you hear about that sometimes, and I will help or do whatever, he left the state, just ran away, and completely lost contact with him. So now I'm a single mom raising a child literally all by myself with literally nobody, working a minimum wage, $8 an hour job, paying for daycare, phone, car, gas, groceries. So I basically had a rolling balance of about negative $172 in my bank account on any given day, car getting repoed out of the parking lot, eviction notices on my apartment door every other month, complete dark thoughts of real suicide, plus dealing with postpartum, but not knowing I was dealing with postpartum because, again, I had no one to ask. So really feeling like a psycho horrible mother because these horrible thoughts that were going through my head as far as being a mom and how moms are supposed to be and the connection they're supposed to have with their child. But imagine the turmoil of my life plus postpartum. I mean, it was a mental and emotional disaster.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just, I have bad days. Everybody has bad days. I have nothing like this. And I'm just more and more impressed with everything you have built. I guess that's, that's the snap. Half the people disappear, kind of a thing in the Marvel world. How did this come back together? I mean, obviously you got footing somewhere, and a lot of people just, they just get to that subsistence level and they stay there. But you've just climbed and climbed. I mean, you're not done. And we'll get you back on here because this story continues. But what was that turning point? What was that? I guess that little bit of footing, a little bit of traction where, hey, I'm going to make it. Yeah.
So I did the whole single mom thing for about 2 years. I have no idea how I did it, so don't ask. Right around that time, I wound up meeting a man with money. And this was, again, you think you're doing something right? Like that was, I feel like that's my life. Like, I feel like I'm doing something right. And then it's like, nah, it doesn't go the way I was expecting it to go. So I wound up meeting a man with money. I thought he was given to me by God. I ignored all of the red flags that were stapled all over his body that were so obvious now looking back. But I fell hook, line, and sinker into all of his manipulations, me just being young, naive, desperate, feeling totally hopeless. And I fell for all his tricks. He, convinced me to move in with him, which he obviously sugarcoated as, you don't have to pay rent and it'll be fabulous and fantastic. All you have to do is take care of the house. And so moved in with him. And then, why are you working that minimum wage job? They're paying you crap. Come work for me and we'll build an empire together. And he's paying me pennies, literally pennies. And so I can't pay for my phone. I can't pay for my car. So again, the same thing. He's like, don't worry about that. I will take care of that. Don't worry about that. I will take care of that. Before you know it, 8 years in, I have nothing. I own nothing and I still have no money. And I basically became like this low-key slave prisoner to this man, working 12 to 14-hour days, building his business. Everything is under his name. We expanded from working out of his little townhouse to an office in Illinois, an office in Ohio, an office in Pennsylvania, office in Florida. And we expanded, 6 offices over 4 different states. And we were clearing, well over $1 million. We had 5 houses paid in full, 12 cars paid in full, 0 debt. I should be the happiest I've ever been. And I'm miserable. I am absolutely miserable. The mental abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, obviously financial abuse was times 10. And he's telling me that I should be grateful. because he pulled me out of the ghetto. And any woman would die to be in the situation that I was in. So I was so confused. I was like, yes, yes, yes. And I hate this. I am always crying. I am always upset. I feel like my life is a total roller coaster. The verbal vomit that was coming out of his mouth was just like piercing to my soul. And so one day I'm on the floor in the bathroom, on the ground, in the dark, having a total mental breakdown, which for your listeners, anyone who's had this, where you're crying and screaming at the same time, and you feel like your soul is like exiting your body. You feel like you're literally dying on the ground because there's no way, there's no hope, there's no light. And I did a Google search. And I'll never forget this day. I literally Googled while on the floor crying, if you could imagine, why is my boyfriend bullying me? I didn't know any other vernacular other than bully. I'm just like, he's such a bully. And this entire world of abuse just hit me right in the face. This non-physical abuse, which is the mental and emotional turmoil that somebody can do to you, the gaslighting, the manipulation, the lying. And I recognized, oh my gosh, it's not me, it's him. And it's also me, because I haven't gained any power. I have no confidence. I have no self-esteem. I have no money. And so this is a turning point for a lot of individuals. They can go one of two ways. They can go with, he did, blame. Or you can turn it and you can say, what can I do? Where is my power? Let me learn more. Let me fix this. And that's the route that I took. So I dove headfirst into personal development, financial power, voice, confidence. And I opened up a secret bank account. I started 3 online secret businesses slowly. And over the course of 4 years, I was able to collect $50,000 and literally walked away one random day. I took my son, our clothes, and my bicycle. That's all I left with after all of that. And I started all over again with a mattress on the floor.
Wow. Did he come after you or try and, I assume, I mean, obviously he's got a problem.
Yeah. This story is, it continues for another year or so after that, but, cut ties, started my own business, started to create my own wealth, and started to create my own communities.
Now, how did you start building the foundation to that? I mean, it was just like one little step at a time, or did you envision this grand thing that you're building now, or how did that all kind of unfold?
Yeah. When I first started, I started in the health and wellness arena, just wanting to help people get healthier. Soon after that, I recognized this excuse of no time. So I fell into the arena of time management, organization, structure, flow, because I believe that that's what I've used in my life in order to get as far as I got. Is I'm very methodical. I'm very calculated. I'm very system oriented, just naturally in my head. And from there, it's just kind of pivoted as I've been doing my podcast, as I've been working with clients. I naturally have created a community, and I have dove headfirst into the importance of that. And it's the only thing I didn't have, right? When you're with somebody who is extremely toxic in general, they keep you very isolated because they don't want you talking to other people. They don't want you saying, hey, is this normal? Or, hey, he did this. So they make sure that you stay with them. They make sure that you stay in a house or in a confined area. So if I was ever gone away from the house for too long, I mean, it was as bad as he would check the times and the dates on my receipts in order to make sure that I was where I was where I said I was. So,
you used the term earlier, gaslighting. I mean, you can't gaslight somebody who's got knowledge, right? And so by keeping you isolated, you should be appreciating me. And because you don't have knowledge, you're confused about it. That's
Exactly.
the way I look at it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. 100%. You know, one of the frustrating things that he would say to me as far as college education, money, is he would use these couple of phrases with me whenever I would start to, you know, take any recognition for all that we had created together. And because I was doing the brunt of the work, you know, he was off golfing, off gallivanting around, and I was the one that was in the office 12 to 14 hours a day. And he would say to me, whenever I started getting a little mouthy or anything, whoever has all the money has all the power. Do you have any money? And my answer was no, therefore I have no power. The other thing he would say to me is, whoever has all the money, whoever makes all the money makes all the rules. Do you make any money? My answer to that is no. So this constant degrading of you have no knowledge, you have no college education, and you have no money, therefore you have no voice. So what's really interesting about that is I endured that for almost a decade. And then realizing one day, he's saying whoever. He's not saying I have all the money, therefore I have all the power. He's saying whoever has all the money has all the power. So I started to think to myself, wait a minute, whoever, does that mean that I can have power if I have money? And that's what kind of like really started me to dive into, as I was doing this whole personal development thing, of starting to read books on money, on finances, on, you know, stocks, on 401ks, on IRAs and savings and all that stuff. And yeah, I just started to create like this little tiny empire for myself to be able to stand on secretly, you know, to get out.
Awesome. It's such a powerful story. I guess my only question is this, and you probably don't have the answer. When's the movie coming out? I just think it would be a great movie or a great book. It's a great story, and
I would love to.
Yeah, well, I think you just keep on the trajectory that you're on, and I mean, there's a story. There's certainly a story there. Let's shift gears. Let's talk about your business. How people listening can maybe help you, maybe be helped by you, become part of your community, if you will. You know, if somebody out there, I can talk about your podcast and the types of people you're looking for that. So.
Yeah. So I love connecting with other women who understand the importance of rising. You know, there are individuals that are kind of still stuck in that darkness. They're stuck in that victim mentality. I'm constantly on the search for women who are on the cusp of recognizing that they can take the blame for themselves and they can take their power back by doing that. So women who are really stepping into mindset or are already in that arena. And I'm really working on building an empire of individuals who are confident, who are bold, who are stepping into personal development and taking it on and finding the power within that. And the community is called Her Nation. We're building the community at the moment on Facebook at hernation.life. That's also the website, by the way. And it's absolutely beautiful. It's everything to me. I'm going full force in this direction, and the feedback and the community, what all of us are getting out of it is 10 times more than anything I have ever had in my life, and 10 times more, even at this point, more than I had ever expected.
That's great. I mean, you've come a long way, and I think, the word that comes to mind to me, that what you really bring to the world is hope. You know, I mean, it's just somebody hearing this story, and it's hard for me to imagine that somebody is in a worse predicament than what you were. I mean, I don't want to downplay anybody's challenges, but just the notion of that, if you can kind of come back, other people can come back. They should have the hope. And I think that's just a powerful thing. I really appreciate your time sharing today. Thank you for having me and giving me the space, for sure. Oh, before we're done, what would be a good way to get a hold of you? Your website, sabrinavictoria.com.
Yep, that's my website, and that has everything on it. So my community is on there. I also run a sober community, my business, Human Better 365, and then all my social media is on there.
All right. We'll get that we'll get that in the notes. Thank you.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.